Go. Welcome, everybody, to the DM Sports Talk Network. This is the Roommate Debate Podcast with Dan Martinez and Joey Menta. We have two very special guests today, two of our really good friends from high school who are now Penn State Nittany Lions, Mike Maffa and Dan Clark. Say hello, guys.
How's it going?
Yo.
How's it going, guys?
So we have a pretty good episode for you guys. Same structure as last time. Some new topics. Menta's going to see if he can ruffle us with his new list in Menta's corner. But we're going to start out with cut bench start. And we're going to start with the basketball world with something that Menta came up with last week. And that's prime Russell Westbrook, prime Derrick Rose, or prime Kyrie Irving. Chef, why don't you start us out?
You want me to start it? Okay. I'll start you guys off with this one. I feel like it's hard to cut prime D Rose and prime Russ because they're both MVPs. So I'm gonna have to cut Kyrie. I think he's an incredible talent. I think he's one of the most skilled players we've ever seen, NBA champion. But he, in his prime, he just didn't play at the level that D Rose and Russell Westbrook did. So I'm gonna have to cut Kyrie. I would probably start Derrick Rose. I think Derrick Rose was incredible. I think he was unstoppable in his prime. And I would bench Russell Westbrook. He was absolutely insane, but he was a bit of a stat patter. But his numbers that he put up were insane. He averaged triple-doubles back-to-back seasons. So I would start D Rose, bench Russ, and cut Kyrie Irving.
All right. Well, I have a hard time kind of disagreeing with any of that, but Dan was saying before the podcast he had a different idea for things. So, Dan, you want to go?
Well, I was saying, all right, I agree with you. I'd cut Kyrie because I think he's a bad teammate. I don't think he's on the level of the other two guys because they won MVPs, like you said. But I'm saying I'd start Russ, which is like, I don't know, it might be like a bad opinion, but I think Rose, like he never achieved his full potential, so we don't really know. And I think in their MVP seasons, like Russ was like out of this world, and I think Rose was like super explosive and stuff. But I'd start Russ. If you're talking like peak, I'd like Russ that one season. I'd take Russ.
All right, I guess that's a better argument than I was expecting, quite honestly.
I mean, I don't know. His stats are insane. You call him a stat patter, I guess. That's fine. But like he willed that. Like he was hitting game-winning shots. I mean, Rose was really good. All right. He was explosive, but I think Russ, like, he was on another level that year.
You're right about that. That's fair. Mike, what do you
why
think?
give me a face, Menta?
I just don't. I think as a player, I think D Rose is better all around, especially at his MVP level.
All around and Russ.
All around?
All around, though?
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
He had the jump shot.
Yeah,
Russ
what
was
about
averaging.
rebounding? All right, let me give my list. All right.
All right,
Dan. So obviously, we're gonna have to start off cutting Kyrie. The man's got great handles, right? Obviously, won a title in Cleveland, but I agree with Dan about being a bad teammate. I just think like he's just a complimentary player. He can never lead a team, and I mean, you can argue that the other two couldn't be maybe a straight up like number one guy, but Kyrie obviously has clearly failed as a number one guy, and so I'm gonna have to cut him. And then to start, I'm gonna have to start Russ, just like Dan. So I don't know if this is your hot take, but I agree with you there. Obviously, a lot of people say he's a stat stuffer and all that stuff, and there's some times where he is, but just the all-around, ability that he has on the court. He can shoot, he can score, he can rebound, he can assist, averaging a triple-double 2 years in a row, like that's a big deal. The only knock on him, I'd say, is that, he turns the ball over a lot. So he can be a little bit inefficient at times, but he could definitely carry a team to the playoffs. And the thing with Rose is he carried the team, the Bulls, as a number one seed before he got hurt to the playoffs. And you look at that team, and they've got good players like Rip Hamilton and stuff, but he was the main guy in that team. And so he's got a tremendous scoring ability, and he's made a bit of a resurgence, which is nice to see
He
if there's
was the
injuries.
youngest player to ever win the MVP. He was 22 years old, which I think was incredible.
Well, if he hadn't gotten hurt, I think.
Prime, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could have been like, if he hadn't gotten hurt, he'd probably 100% probably be his start, but we never will know like his true potential. So
You can argue that
Russ.
Russ is
As
still
we're on
in
this
his
topic,
prime now.
I think
Um,
Russ, yeah, he's getting older.
As we're on the topic of Derrick Rose, just a quick question for you guys. Do you think Derrick Rose is a Hall of Famer? Because I do not.
No.
No, didn't have enough in him.
Didn't play
I
for
mean, the
long
NBA
enough.
Hall of Fame's weaker
Also, do
than like something like the MLB Hall of Fame. The Baseball Hall of Fame kind of has that reputation of being
Yeah, the
you
NBA.
need an amazing career, like an absolutely elite career to make the MLB Hall of Fame. The NBA, you can have just a great career and be on that ballot and make it. So maybe he squeaks in, but I don't think he should be in there.
I
That's a
don't think
good
he
point that you make because like I was just looking like I'll look up a guy, look at their like career stats. You know, hearing this Jordan documentary, you see all these like players, and I just get curious. And like there's some guys like you haven't watched them play, but they make like 3 or 4 All-Star games, and they're in the Hall of Fame, and it's like
Yeah.
it's a different cut for different leagues, you know, to make that pristine of like a level. So there's a chance that he could, but I just
Yeah.
don't see it.
Like my argument's always Chris Webber. I don't know, like watching Chris Webber play and stuff, like watching video of him. Obviously, we weren't like around watching him in his prime and stuff, but you look at his stats, and it's not like he was there for 15 years doing the same thing over and over again. He was great for like what seemed like 7 or 8 years, and that was it. And he was like a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
That's true, but also that's still a lot more than Rose. I mean, Rose is still playing right now.
No,
but
exactly. That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
Rose doesn't even touch it for sure.
it's just nice to see him playing again though. Like
Yeah.
it's like
It definitely
it's
is.
some fun like Bleacher Report posts seeing him
Mhm.
again. Like feels like 2011.
It definitely does. It's
Sure,
awesome
this
seeing
team, right?
somebody kind of just go here and go back up to the top. I'm with Menta on this one actually, but for different reasons. I just don't like Kyrie in general. He's a great player. I'm not knocking that, but being a Celtics fan, he came in and just demolished what Brad Stevens was trying to build there. And I mean, on paper, that team was untouchable in talent for a lot of the ways, but I mean, Hayward got hurt, and then Kyrie just didn't become the leader he needed to be. So if you're going off the best player, you got to go with the guy who's the true number one, which is D Rose. I mean, he led that team with, I mean, yeah, Rip Hamilton, good player, but he's not a number one player on a championship winning team where D Rose led them. I mean, that's where I'm kind of going to draw that. And I just, Russ, I mean, stat patter for sure in some capacity. I don't know how big it was, but I just don't see him being that number one guy. I do think he's better than Kyrie, though.
No, he's not. Russell Westbrook? Oh, you mean
In his prime, yeah.
For
I don't
sure.
think anymore. I think I would still take Kyrie, even though he's a terrible leader. I mean, if you're just going for
Over
player
Russ?
and if you have a number one guy
Russ is
and
still
you
in
just
his
need a
prime.
second star, I would take Kyrie.
I think Russ is still really good. Like, I mean, he had to take a lesser role.
It's not
'cause
like
he
he's
was Harden.
bad or anything, but like, I mean, for him to win big time, he needs to be a second guy.
Kyrie's not even doing anything right now. He's hurt.
For Kyrie, you're saying?
I think Kyrie and Russ are in that same situation where they can't lead a team
Yeah.
themselves.
I mean,
Well,
Russ has taken a team
Russ-
to the playoffs.
Russ did will that. Yeah, Russ willed that team in his MVP year. That team, that roster around him wasn't even that good. He willed he was doing
What
everything.
seed
that
were
year.
they?
It's like a 5
They
seed.
must have been like a 5th or 6th seed, right?
The West is also. I mean, the West is super tough.
Because I mean, John
Yeah.
Morant on an absolute like a really really young roster. I'm not going to say terrible. They have a lot of potential, but they're not that great. I mean, he was leading them in his rookie season to an 8 seed in the West. So like,
Yeah, they're not.
I feel like that comparison then.
Yeah, but the bottom of the West is like bad. Like a
Yeah.
5 seed in the West
There's
is
a
really
cutoff.
good.
I mean,
Like,
you're not wrong about that, but like now, there's like 8 teams in the West that have pretty damn good rosters that could be in that top 7 range in the East, or at least compete for that spot.
It goes in the West. It's like the top 5 are just the top 2 in the East. Like the top 5 are way better than like the top 2 teams in the East are like comparable. Then there's a drop off where like the bottom of the West is like equal to the bottom of the East. It's just like a lot of like the West at the top.
It's
is a
definitely
lot
way more
better.
even than it was before. That's for sure. Like the last like 4
Yeah.
years or so were like really
Till
rough.
Kawhi
Where it
went
was like
to the
really
Clippers.
uneven.
yeah, I mean, the
feel-
West still has 2
I-
really good teams. I mean, you can call the Raptors if you're. It depends how you say the Raptors, but like the
But
West.
I mean, you still have like the Bucks, Celtics, Heat, Sixers, Pacers, who are all like elite level teams. They just play different style. I think the East is more of like a nitty gritty type team, like a type of group of teams, and the West is more like Showtime, big name, like top heavy rosters. Whereas the East is like just stacked from top to bottom with great talent, and that's how they're winning games. Like the Pacers, I mean, Victor Oladipo is their best player, and he's not a top 10 guy or anything, but he's leading them to be a top 4 seed in this division.
Mhm.
I just think it's a lot easier to do that in the East, coming from a person that likes a team in the Eastern Conference. But you know.
Well, I think that's fair for sure.
It's kind of a reason why LeBron was able to get to all these finals all these years, you know. Like, I'm a LeBron fan, but like if he was in the Western Conference, there's just no way. I mean, say you put the Warriors in the East and he had to play all the other teams in the West, I don't think he would make it to all the finals that he did. And I don't think it's really changed much.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
I think it's changed a little bit to be a little bit more even than it used to be. Because for a long time it was a pretty even weighted battle. But then there was a while with the super teams and stuff where it just kind of the gear shifted into like 3 or 4 teams at the top and the rest of the NBA kind of looking up. Yeah. Okay. So we'll move to the NFL start bench cut. And we have 3 quarterbacks who are dual threats. 3 guys who at times have either been called overrated, underrated, supreme athletes for sure though. Michael Vick, Russell Wilson, and Cam Newton.
When has Russell Wilson been called overrated?
There's definitely been I mean, he's never gotten an MVP vote, and people put him in the top 3 in the league. I would call him a little bit more underrated, but I have seen people call him overrated for, you know, not really winning. But the difference, I mean, I want to hear what you guys have as your 3, but I have a little bit to say on Russ. I do like Russell Wilson, though. I'm not going to say I don't like him, that's for sure. But, Mental, let's hear what you have as your 3.
Yeah. So we got a pretty much the same kind of QBs, very mobile, very athletic, strong. I'm 100% cutting Cam Newton. He was literally only like really great for like 1 season. He is just not on the level as Michael Vick or Russell Wilson are, or even were in their prime. I'm not sure why he's even in this conversation. So I'm cutting Cam. It's tough. I think Michael Vick was more of a threat, so I'm going to start Mike Vick and then bench Russell Wilson. Even though Russell Wilson, he was a Super Bowl champion, but he also has never even received an MVP vote or won an MVP, but he is also very elite. But I think Mike Vick is the best mobile QB ever. So I would probably start him.
So Dan and Mike, what are you 2 thinking on this, though? On Memphis' list, and then what are yours?
I think you're overrating Vic. I think that happens a lot.
Completely.
Vic gets overrated because he's a big highlight machine, but I would start Russ, and I'd cut Cam too because, like you said, he was like good first few years, and then he had that one great year. He's kind of falling apart, but I was more between the like. I wasn't really questioning Russ is better than Vic. I think Vic is a highlighted machine, but I mean, if you look at look at his stats more, I don't think he was as good as people remember him because of the highlights and stuff and how explosive he was. So I would start Russ. And Russ, I think, is consistently willing teams to the playoffs. And I don't think really I'd start Russ.
Mike, thoughts?
I just really think that Mike. We're looking at 3 mobile QBs, and Vic he's better. He's more mobile. See, Mike, than all 3 of them. So, I'm starting Mike Vick in terms of mobility and athletic. You got to go Mike Vick on this one.
Yeah, but we're not talking. Are we saying better players? Or are we saying better mobile quarterbacks?
Better players, but they're all mobile quarterbacks. So whatever way.
Yeah, well, they're all mobile quarterbacks. So I'm saying I think Russ is a better player. He's he's doing all this
and don't underrate Vic's arm. He can throw.
Well, I know Vic can throw.
I'm taking Russ's arm over Vic though.
Yeah, Russ is great. I think he's a great pocket passer too, and I think he's consistently maybe Vic, if he wasn't doing what he did, I could put him over Russ, but. He missed out years on his prime, and then maybe he could have peaked in one of those years because he was really good.
Chime in on this. Sorry for those of you guys that are watching us, because I just had a little bit of a noise disturbance. I was outside, and the neighbors are kind of loud, but I'm inside now. I'm gonna have to agree with you guys in that Wilson is the number 1 guy, right? I think we can all agree on that.
Menta didn't agree on that, though.
Oh, Menta didn't?
Menta said Vic.
Oh, you said – oh, right. Okay.
Menta said Vic.
I thought Vic second. I thought that was about second. All right. So I'm going to agree with Dan. Right. Russ is the number one guy. I mean, I thought like this was not even hard at all of a decision because he, like Dan said, he wills teams to the playoffs. You look in like just recently, he's gotten a run game. Like obviously he had Lynch, towards the beginning of his career, but like the amount of crappy O lines he's had to deal with and bring them to the playoffs is, I mean, it's impressive what he's been able to do. I mean, you think of Russell Wilson, you think of someone, dropping back 15 yards into the pocket to avoid the rush because of his O-line is so bad and just making plays happen. So I think he's a clear number one. So I'm going to start him. And then I'm going to bench Cam Newton. I mean, I'm not a Cam Newton fan by any means. I think he's overrated. I mean, not at this point of his career, but I think he, is not accurate with the deep ball, or really, I don't think he's very accurate, but I think he's just a playmaker. And compared to Michael Vick, I just think he's a flash in the pan. I think personally, like one of the most overrated players of all time coming from an Eagles fan, because you just think of the highlights and you see him running, and he had like one potentially MVP caliber season, but he wasn't a very good passer. He had an arm, but he wasn't really much of a quarterback. He's just like a watered down Lamar Jackson. Obviously he was fast, but Lamar Jackson. The thing is with Lamar Jackson, I think he's a better quarterback. Might not have a stronger arm, but he's also, I mean, not as a runner. I think they're both similar, but I just think, if you're going to compare those two, I would take Lamar, and also I would have to cut Vic because I just don't see him leading any teams. And honestly, say whatever you will about, how his career, his personal life happened, but missing 2 years in the prime of your career is a huge liability to all the teams, and that's just, that hurts his career.
That's a fair comment.
Mad.
I mean, just talking on the Lamar comment, I was telling Menta this before. I think there's at least 12 to 13 guys in the league who have better arms than Lamar Jackson.
My God.
Like, not just stronger, but just purely better arms than Lamar Jackson. He does not have that good of an arm. He is one of the best athletes I have ever seen on a football field. He really is. He's a freak athlete. But in my eyes, he is a extremely talented running back.
Running back. You need
solid arm.
You can't call him a running back. He has an arm. He threw 36 touchdowns. A running back does not throw 36 touchdowns, Dan.
He does when he's averaging like 20 attempts per game for throwing. He's throwing 20 balls a game.
10 touchdowns. He's a tight end. 10 touchdowns for a tight end is a lot.
That's a tight end. That means that the tight end was good. It doesn't mean that the tight end was, a decent player being made better. This is not Brady to Aaron Hernandez. This is not Brady to Ben Watson in the early years of his career. This is not a quarterback making his team better.
Wait, Aaron Hernandez was a stud. Like, say what you will about him, but he was a great tight end. It wasn't.
But he also was out of his mind, killing people on the side.
Killing people doesn't make him worse. Brady didn't.
No, but there are stories of him missing practice during the week and showing up, and Brady making these perfect throws to make Aaron Hernandez look good. He was an extreme talent.
Yeah, like, you're getting off on a weird tangent.
Lamar Jackson doesn't Pro Bowl, Dan.
Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson look amazing. Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson are not amazing wide receivers, but they looked amazing under Aaron Rodgers.
Jordy Nelson was good.
Receiver.
He was good. He wasn't elite, though, with the touchdown numbers he was putting up and the yardage numbers he was putting up. Deion Branch was not that unbelievable. Dan Marino was doing it with literally nothing. I mean, the great quarterbacks can do it with nothing. Lamar Jackson's offense was literally tailored to make it good for a running back behind.
If that's what you're saying, tight end.
Running back, no.
Lamar Jackson has the best line in the NFL. He has one of the most athletic tight end and wide receiver groups, and one of the best running back groups.
Best wide receiver group.
Perform with that, you are awful. No, one of the most athletic wide receiver groups, not one of the most best, not one of the best. But he had Marquise Brown, who's one of the fastest guys in the NFL, extremely talented, played really well while hurt.
That's fair.
He had Willie Snead, who's not that good, but he's a big guy who can just catch the ball. That's all he needs to do.
You're saying Willie Snead is like carrying Lamar Jackson. Do you know what you're talking about?
I'm not saying Willie Snead is carrying
It sounds like it.
No. He used the weapons he had really well.
You can't make this case. He is not one of the top 5 throwers, but He's not a terrible
He's
thrower,
not even
like
one of
you
the
said.
top 10 throwers.
Yeah, he's not. No, Mental's right. He's not. I think it's
He's not a
disrespectful when
bottom
people say
5
he's a
thrower,
running
but he's
back.
not a top 10 thrower.
He's not, but that combined with the running ability and his shiftiness makes him a stud quarterback and better than Mike Vick in my opinion.
Makes him a great quarterback, yeah, but what happens when one guy hits him the wrong way while he's on the run?
Well,
There's going to be a Carson Wentz in 17 situation.
And that's definitely a risk to take. I would never draft Lamar in fantasy because of that risk. Like
All mobile quarterbacks, then Dan, they're all just going to get hurt.
No, the guys that rely on their mobility are the guys
he
that I
goes
worry
down
about.
Lamar Jackson goes down in a smart way. Carson Wentz is a bit reckless in my opinion.
That's also true. But what happens when Lamar Jackson, where there's a game on the line, he figures I have to take over. He gets hit really hard, like Sean Taylor style, and just breaks his leg. He tries to come back. It's an RG3 situation. RG3 would have been great if he had never gotten hurt. He was playing great from the beginning, and then he got hurt. And then his career went downhill. What happens if Lamar gets that one injury? That just sets things in motion.
That's definitely a risk with those types of quarterbacks, and that's kind of why, Mike Vick, I'm surprised Mike Vick even lasted as long as he did. I mean, I don't know how old he was when he retired.
He was
Helps he.
35 when he retired officially.
Well, yeah, but
35.
The last time he
that's
started 10
a
games,
good
though, he was
career.
34.
Well, no, injuries. I mean, injuries did kind of derail him at the end of his career. That's what made it.
Yeah, I mean, Vic only played more than 12 games 5 times.
It helps. He took 2
in-
years off for those reasons, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
injuries did derail. I think injuries at the end of his career kind of he had that resurgence here in the Eagles, and then he kind of dipped back down, and then got hurt, and then that was that. Now he's going again.
Yeah. I'm not saying Lamar Jackson is a bottom feeder quarterback in the NFL, but I am saying he is definitely overrated for what he did last year. You got to give a lot. Nobody gives as much credit to the rest of his team as they did to Lamar.
He was an MVP, Dan.
You're right. That MVP was all on Willie Snead.
I misspoke with the Willie Snead there. I did not put the right.
You're just upset because they were the top team in the AFC and the Patriots weren't.
Why would I be upset about that? The Patriots have won the most Super Bowls in the history of football. I wouldn't really care about one down year.
This isn't a talk about the Patriots, all right?
Because there's no argument between who's better, Lamar Jackson or Tom Brady. Everybody on
right
the
now,
planet of Earth.
Right now,
in history, even if Lamar Jackson goes on his career and plays like this for the rest of his career, he will not be considered better than Tom Brady if he doesn't win Super Bowls. Plain and simple. Lamar Jackson has not won a playoff game yet. Yet. That's the point. He hasn't won it. He got there with the best team in the league and didn't win. He got there with the best team in the league and lost immediately. And it wasn't like he fought super hard. He put up empty stats against a team that really shouldn't have beaten them in the Titans.
Titans were steamrolling, man. I don't know.
They were steamrolling last year. But, I mean, the Ravens were steamrolling teams the entire year. They were unbelievable. They were healthy at that point. There was no reason why they should have lost that game, and they didn't game plan right. They didn't play right. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I'm not going to pretend I know what happened.
You're blaming Lamar, but now you're saying they didn't game plan right.
I mean, in general, they didn't game plan, and he didn't exactly improvise the right way.
He had a bad game.
Quarterbacks in the league, the Drew Breeses, the Aaron Rodgers, the Bradys, would have improvised the best they could to try and close that gap, and they've done it time and time again in their career. When game planning fails you improvise.
Wait, what game was this?
He played against the Chargers the year before. They got he made a late comeback, but he was a rookie then. I mean, he didn't even start that.
Okay.
I don't blame him for that one. But last year, as the MVP of the league, I get there's that whole thing with MVPs tend to lose in the Super Bowl and stuff like that, but I'm not saying he should have won the Super Bowl. What I'm saying, he should have won a playoff game with the year he had and the team he had. I mean, that's not unreasonable to say that they should have beat the Titans.
But my Wi-Fi is just terrible.
We can tell.
Yeah. Just a little.
I'm sorry.
Move on to the baseball.
Definitely, yeah. This one I think is simple for the first place guy, but there are definitely people who would mix up the bench and cut. Trout, Bellinger, and Yelich. I think it's clear who we're starting for each of
Yeah.
us. If it's
Yeah.
not, then I'm gonna have a major problem with somebody because it's Mike Trout, and
I'll start
that's
this
that's
one.
plain and simple. He is the best player in the major leagues. He will end up being one of the best players of all time by the end of
Best
his
player of all
career.
time. Best player of all time.
I don't know about that. Babe
Yeah,
Ruth
there's
Best
kind of has
player
a
of all
chokehold on
time.
that position
Best
right
player
now.
of all time.
Yeah, you probably should have picked like someone other than Mike Trout, Dan. Maybe like Mookie Betts or something.
All right.
Well, that's why I was
switch
wondering
it.
if
We'll
you
switch it
made
to
these
Betts,
things.
Bellinger, and Yelich. We'll switch it to Betts,
All
Bellinger,
right.
and Yelich. In
Betts,
my
Bellinger,
eyes, it's a lot harder. I know who I'm cutting. That's
This
for
makes
sure.
my lack of baseball knowledge this makes me struggle even more because I at least could have had one guy right with Trout being one, but no, you had to
Yeah,
put in
the-
Betts.
So we're doing
Mookie's-
Betts, Bellinger, Yelich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is where Menta head is
Yeah.
going to
Just
explode.
if Menta can thrive here, and maybe DMARC because he needs a little bit of a toss up, like a
Well, no,
nice
he's gonna
lob
be biased
after that
start
that
with
argument.
Mookie Betts.
I need a softball pitch, DMARC. You need the home run here. So keep Trout in there.
Hey, we got to say controversial things to keep things flowing and get people liking it. But
That's exactly what you say on the
I
podcast.
mean, it's a fair point, though. I mean, no one's gonna listen if it's total agreement every time.
I agree. I love to see Menta get heated. Right.
So, I mean,
later.
So are we doing? We're throwing in Mookie now. Is that a thing?
yeah, and I think Menta's head's gonna explode when I said I'm starting Betts.
Mm.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm starting Betts, benching Yelich, cutting Bellinger, and I don't like. I love Bellinger, I really do. In his rookie season, I actually said like multiple times, and this isn't just me being a biased Red Sox fan, but I mean, I had Bellinger projected to have a better career than Aaron Judge in the first place in that rookie season, just because if Bellinger could figure out his batting average, he'd automatically be better because he's a better defender in my eyes. He plays more positions. He can play
no
the
bias
entire
there at
outfield
all.
where Judge can sit in right field. And like I'm gonna value
Now you're just gonna
the ability to
slander
play
Judge.
center field and right field and left field all together. Judge is an unbelievable talent. He's a freak of nature. He's that big. His swing is amazing. He's a Yankee, but he's a Yankee that I like. I do like Judge. But I'm cutting Bellinger in this instance just because he did it for one amazing year, albeit, but he did it for 1 year. Betts has done this for 5 years. And Yelich has done it for four or five. He had a few really solid years in Miami that no one really talks about. But since he got to Milwaukee, it's been ridiculous. But I'm starting Betts. He's the best fielder of the three. He's up. I mean, their hitting is so dissimilar in style. Betts is more of a hit and run type of guy. He's going to sneak a few over the fence. He's going to hit 30 homers, but most of them are going to be cheaper home runs, to say the least. He's not going to hit tape measure shots like Yelich and Bellinger. But he runs just as well as the other two. He's a better defender. He's done it for longer. He's been the guy on his team multiple times. And that's where it's like a slight edge over Yelich in my eyes. But then Yelich is the bench guy for me because he's just ridiculous. He puts on a show every time he's on the field. And then I have Bellinger just because of lack of multiple years of doing this.
Fair point with Bellinger. I agree.
And why are you mad?
I'm gonna let Clark.
Why you look so angry?
You go first, Clark.
It sounds like you want to go, Menta.
Yeah, you have something to
Sounds like
say,
you want to
man.
unload a little bit.
No, yeah, I honestly think you're just saying this because he can make diving catches. Other than that, he is not the hitter. He is not as good of a hitter as Bellinger and Yelich. Definitely not Yelich. Yelich is an incredible hitter. He is a tremendous power hitter. So I'm going to start Yelich. I just like the way Bellinger played last year, and he was rookie of the year. So I don't know what you're saying about lack of years. That's false.
He had one amazing year. He had a down year 2 years ago, and then he had a good rookie year.
I think Betts was terrible the first half of the year last year, so I'm going to cut him and then bench Bellinger. Clark?
I don't know about that. I mean, you say he doesn't have the same hitting ability. The man hit 346 2 years ago, but he's not a good hitter.
I didn't say that. I didn't say he's not a good hitter.
Of the three, that's the highest batting average, I believe, by all three of them in a single
Definitely
season.
is.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
Maybe
So
Yelich.
No,
I think
Yelich
Yelich
isn't
might
that
have come
good.
close
Yelich is more
2 years ago.
consistent, though.
Either of them.
But I mean,
Yelich
Betts
best
has had
was
16 or more
329.
stolen bases the last 5 years. He's hit over 296 or 5 out of his 6 years.
How did you do last year? How did you do
Last year he hit 295 with 29 homers and 80 RBIs out of the leadoff spot with 16 stolen bases. How is that bad? If that's a bad year, that
How
should
do you-
automatically
How
give
did
you
you
the
do the
reason
first
why
half
he's
of the
better.
season? How did you do the first half of the season?
Dude, it matters about how you finish, not
How
how
did
you
you
start.
do
If
the
you're
first
going for a
half of the
playoff
season?
spot, it matters how you finish.
Oh,
Look
yeah.
at the
I forgot.
They started out
they made the playoffs last
19
year,
and
right?
31 and won the World Series.
Did they make the playoffs last year?
The Nationals started out 1931 and they finished the season as the World Series champions.
Why do
It
you
doesn't
have to
matter about how
remind me
you
of that?
finish.
You said playoff spot. Did the Red Sox make the playoffs last year?
No, they didn't. But look at the what's it called? The division they were in. The 2 teams ahead of them are 2 of the other top 7 teams in the league.
And that's an excuse.
The Red Sox
You
got
guys are
injured the
reigning
whole
World
year.
Series champions. Why is that an excuse? You guys are the reigning World Series champions.
And have you
'Cause you're
ever heard of
so
World
busy
Series
saying-
hangover?
Because you're
Have you heard about World Series hangover? When was the last time there was a repeat champion?
I
I think it was the Yankees in '99.
Did I say World Series champion? I said making the playoffs.
Didn't
And a
the
lot of
Marlins
times they
win
don't make the
too?
playoffs.
They
Didn't
went
the
back to
Marlins
back.
go back to back?
And I said
No.
making the
No,
playoffs.
the
They-
Marlins won '97 and 2001 or 2003.
Oh, all right. Just don't listen to me.
No, Marlins won '97 and 2003, I think.
Okay.
Because Diamondbacks won '01.
He's so mad he had to leave. All right, Clark, give us your list while we can hear you.
I don't even know. The Mookie thing tripped me up. I think Yelich. I think Yelich is better than Bellinger. I'll say that. But
That's
all right, I'm gonna all right. I'll start Yelich, bench Mookie, cut Bellinger. I'm a big Yelich guy. I think he's gonna be great. But
Start
all right, he's
Yelich?
already great.
Honestly, I have no problem starting Yelich. Just personally, I'm going to take like the slightly better fielding. If like the rest of it's pretty much balanced, I'm just going to take the slightly better fielding. Like that's pretty much, and the World Series championship. That's like I feel like there's a
baseball,
slight bump.
so-
It's
Yeah, Mike Trout has made the playoffs like once. I wouldn't really bring
Wait,
in.
yeah,
Trout has
sign a
been
big-
so
sign a big deal with the
unbelievably
Angels
above
instead of coming
in
to the
just skill
Phillies.
level and statistics. It's just not fair. Like
My
I mean,
Mike
and
Trout bias will live on.
if Trout had anything around him to be able to perform, I'd be fine. But his pitchers
He
are
had
like a
stacked
kindergarten
team when they
class.
had Josh Hamilton and Albert Pujols and Mark Trumbo at the beginning of his career, and he didn't
Pujols
win
wasn't even that
anything.
good on the Angels.
They had no pitching.
Yeah, they never had pitching
With that
until
hitting,
now.
that's like 4 of the best power hitters of the decade.
Yeah, but pitching wins
Pujols-
championships.
You're all right. You can't blame Trout.
Pitching
Come on,
and
don't
defense
start like
wins championships. Plain and simple.
saying like Trout's a choker or something.
No, he's not. I was just mad that he didn't come to Philly.
Look at
Yeah,
the
whatever.
Royals. Look at the Kansas
He's
City
loyal to
Royals,
his
how they won
team.
that World Series. That was all purely pitching. That was it. They had above average hitters at the most for like 4 guys. That was it. But like their pitching was off the charts.
Mike Moustakas.
If you give a Mike Trout led Angels team
Or Salvador
some
Perez.
pitching, they'd be amazing.
That
Oh
does
yeah,
beg to
a
differ.
270 hitting catcher is the savior
It's
of a
pretty
team's
good for a
hitting.
catcher.
That's solid for a catcher. I love Salvi. Salvi, in my opinion, was arguably the best catcher in the league for a little while there. But I mean, I'm
And you
not
just-
going to say that they just won the World Series because Salvador Perez was in their lineup.
All right. The whole
It was
thing
because
is,
they had the 3-headed monster at the back of that bullpen that nobody
okay,
could
so you're
score
right,
on.
D-Mart. So then how can you give Betts credit for a Red Sox? Like, that's not like a tipping point in an argument in baseball. Like, World
No,
Series
I'm just saying, like, if it comes down to the point where their hitting is pretty much the same, their base running pretty much the same, their fielding is just slightly differentiated because Betts has multiple Gold Gloves and he's right above. And then, I mean, it comes down to how has their teams performed, and Yelich has gotten injured towards the end of the season where Betts has won a World Series. And, like, that could be used as a small point just to put, like, an extra little dot at the top of it.
All right, well, I'll give you my list.
I have no problem based on skill just putting Yelich ahead of him at all.
D-Mart, I like to argue with you, but I actually have the exact same list as you. So, I mean, I'm going to start off starting. Shout out to Josh Culp, Cookie Betts. I'm going to start Mookie Betts. And, you know, I hate to see these guys go to Los Angeles and just get their bag. Like, I'm glad he's getting his bag, but I just hate when these big names go to LA. It's just like
He was already in
never
LA.
gonna
What are
win
you
anything.
talking about?
Guys, no, I'm
Oh, I
saying
thought you were
like
talking about Mike Trout again. You're always mad about Mike Trout.
no,
You're always mad about Mike Trout. I thought you were talking about him again.
no. I'm talking about like Betts and Machado, like all those guys. You know,
Dan got angry.
He always gets mad about Mike Trout, so I was gonna argue. with
whatever.
him.
All right. So, but I think he's obviously clearly the better of the two. Well, not clearly, but he's the better of the two between him and Yelich. I think there's an argument to be made for that.
He's a better fielder. He's not a better hitter.
He is a better hitter though.
No,
I
he's
think
not.
it's the same thing. I really do. So okay, but in that case, I'm gonna bench Yelich, and then obviously I'm gonna cut Bellinger because I think, like D-Mart said, he had one big and he's a very good player. He'll make more All-Star games, but he'll never perform at the level of the other two anymore. There's just no way. And
Never?
I just don't see. I mean, like I just don't see it.
You don't think Bellinger will ever like?
Wait, okay, not saying never, but I don't think he's in the class with the other two. I just think that's
I mean, didn't he already kind of perform that way last year?
yeah. But I mean, like look at Harper now. Like he pretty won an MVP. Has he been
I mean,
in the game?
I mean, that's a fair point for sure.
I hate to say that.
But I mean, like, I'm just gonna say this: like, watching a bunch of like the MLB analysts talk about when Betts went to LA and stuff, what their thoughts were about how the Dodgers lineup is going to pay off. They were saying Bellinger's going to do amazing because pitchers are going to be much more willing to pitch to Bellinger than they will to Betts. So they're going to throw a crap ton of junk Betts' way and try and pitch around him a lot more than they will to Bellinger. They're going to give him a little bit more because they haven't seen the same consistency out of Bellinger that they have out of Betts. And I mean, Betts has shown the ability to just battle out the count and go 12 pitch at bat and then hit a homer in a big game. So that they're going to be much more willing to throw to Bellinger with less experience than they are to Betts in that lineup.
No, yeah, better hitters around you make you better. Like they're gonna both go off if Mookie ever plays for the Dodgers because the season's probably not happening and he's a free agent.
Who knows at this point?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's gonna get his bag though, and that's good for him.
He's gonna get money from somebody.
Oh yeah.
So do we want to move to Menta's Corner, or do we want to talk about?
Yes. No, we gotta go to Menta's Corner.
All right, let's go to Menta's Corner. Menta, get
Talk some
hype.
football, please.
Get hype. Bring out the list. What were we talking about today?
All right. We doing top 5 or top 10?
Top 10.
Let's
Top
go top
5's
10.
not
Let's make this
controversial
interesting.
All right, a lot of controversial. All right, so I'm gonna give you my top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League as we speak.
Get hype, Menta.
All right, number 10. Coming in at number 10. I hate him, but he never gets hurt. He always stays healthy. I'm gonna go with Dak.
He got hurt at the end of last year. Was
Dak?
hurt for the Eagles game.
He had a shoulder sprain.
Shoulder.
Cooper Rush for the
Did
win.
game, though?
Hmm?
Did he end up exiting that game, or was he just
No, he played through
But he
injury.
played with a shoulder
Exactly.
sprain.
Thank you.
I'm just saying. You say he never gets hurt, but that led to them losing. So
Yeah.
go on.
No, they were gonna lose anyway.
Well, and the fact that Jason Garrett's a horrible
No
coach.
bias.
No bias.
Yeah, so coming in at number 10 is Dak Prescott for me. Coming in at number 9, he's the greatest of all time, but he's just not that good anymore. I'm going to go with Tom Brady. 24 touchdowns in 16 games is mediocre, and he pretty much got carried by his offense the first 8 games and then kind of fell off.
You mean
Wait.
defense?
You mean the defense?
What did I say?
You mean the
You said
boogeyman?
offense.
Oh, the defense. Yeah, the
Defense.
Refer to them by
yes.
their given name, the boogeymen, please.
Who calls them the boogeymen?
They do.
And at number
Okay, well, I won't refer to them like that, but thank you.
New England media calls them the boogeymen.
All right, well, I don't care about New England media. This is in New England. Never heard that.
I got Matty Ice, Matt Ryan. That's a little controversial, but I still think he's a good quarterback. I think he's better than Prescott for sure. And I think he's better than Brady now. I really don't think Tom Brady is all that good anymore. So, and then coming in at number 7, I got the clutch man himself, Deshaun Watson. He's one of the most clutch QBs in the NFL. Tremendous talent, great runner. Him and DeAndre Hopkins was pretty fun to watch. And coming in at number 6, I got the Philadelphia Eagles. quarterback Carson Wentz. He's an all-world talent. I mean, he threw for 4,000 yards and 27 touchdowns, I think, or with not even having a receiver over 1,000 yards. And, he was pretty much the MVP of 2017. If he didn't.
Carson Wentz is number 1.
Great input. That's great input right there.
He was pretty much the MVP of 2017 after going down. So I think he's number 6. And I'll move into my.
You said Deshaun was number 6.
No, I said Deshaun was number 7.
Really good.
Coming in number
my
5,
bad.
I got that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, number 5. I mean, what did he have? Both TD to interception ratio, like 20. Clark, what was it, 24?
Mike probably knows he's an Aaron Rodgers fanboy.
I mean, I'm a huge Rodgers fan.
It was like, I don't
He
know.
had 4
Nope.
interceptions, I'm pretty sure. So, like, that tells you
26 and 4. 26 and 4. So
26.
Aaron Rodgers had 26 touchdowns and 4
that's
interceptions.
greatness.
And that's a down year for that bad man. And that's really not a down year.
He's had a lot of down years in a row now.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
Wait, what did you say?
I said he's having a lot of down years in a row now. If these are all
I'm
just
just
down
I
years.
ready.
mean, if you
I'm just
consider
readying
down
my
years, I
stats.
consider them.
I'm just
Great.
readying my stats right now.
I'm coming number 4. Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, one of the most accurate QBs of all time, and one of the most smartest quarterbacks we've ever seen. Yes, he plays in a dome a lot, but he's still very accurate. He gets the job done, except in the playoffs. He got unlucky those 2 years. Last year he choked, but when he came back this year with a thumb injury, I mean, he threw like five touchdowns against the best defense in football as soon as he came back, and that was absolutely incredible. So he tore it up at the end of last year, except in the playoffs. And then you move into the top 3. At number 3, I got Russell Wilson. Yep, Russell Wilson. I think he's tremendous, and he is tremendous. Great runner, great mobile quarterback, hasn't gotten an MVP vote.
That's a shame.
Yep, and hasn't won an MVP, not even a vote. And then I'm coming in at number 2, I got Lamar Jackson. We've already had this debate. I mean, DMAR thinks he's a running back, which is completely blasphemous. But we've seen the man throw, and we've seen how athletically he is.
Yeah, we've seen him throw. It kind of waggles a little bit like a dead duck in the air. But, yeah, we've seen him throw.
I mean,
It'll be Brady this year.
I mean, I'm just saying the argument for Aaron Rodgers, a bit of a down year. But if his down year is that, Brady had the same season. He had 4 more interceptions and 2 less touchdowns with way less weapons,
Yeah,
and he
that's
had
a
more
big-
yards.
Way less.
Doesn't
weapons.
sound like the same season.
Brady
I'm-
had way
weapons?
less weapons. Way less weapons.
number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. Don't even need to explain
That's
myself.
fair.
Easy. That's easy. That's
Not
easy.
even argue that. Not
Like
even
you
argue
did
that.
last year.
I did last year, and
When he
then
had
he won a Super
touchdowns,
Bowl
argued that he wasn't the best, and you saw Tom Brady is the best.
because he had one good season.
That's
Wait, one good season.
There's a name missing from your list, right? Matt
There is
Stafford.
a bad man with some long
Stafford.
hair with a cannon for an arm who was missing from Kansas State
What's wrong with-
University,
what's wrong
Matthew
with
Stafford.
Matt Stafford. From
Nothing.
where, Deemer?
From Kansas State. Didn't he play for Kansas State? Am I
No,
right about
he
that?
went to Georgia. Get out of here.
Kansas State.
Where
Cut
am I
that out,
seeing the
cut that out.
Stafford and the Kansas State picture then?
What?
All right, just keep talking.
He went
He
to
did not
Georgia.
go to. He never went to Kansas State. I don't know where you pulled
What
that
the
out
heck?
of.
Where did I see a Matt Stafford in a Kansas State jersey? There was somebody who posted a picture of him in a Kansas State jersey, and it just
I'm
stuck
gonna
with me.
hear your guys.
Yeah.
From
I
Kansas
was
State.
so
Like
confused.
I want to hear your guys' lists.
my
I got a
list.
list.
I'm like, you got a list? You
I
wanna
got
say
a.
your
I
list?
mean, I copied my list from the group chat.
I don't have a list, so you can say yours.
All right, I'll go through it quick. 10, Matt Ryan. 9, Tom Brady. 8, Matt Stafford. So I got him on the list. He's not,
That's a joke. He's not better than Tom Brady.
7, Wentz,
He's got nothing in his career.
Watson. So as an Eagles fan, I have Wentz after Watson. We've
How?
had this argument in person.
I agree.
many
I
times.
agree.
Yeah,
Watson over Wentz?
All
Even
of
Yeah.
our friends love to have the
Watson
green
had
goggles on,
DeAndre
but like
Hopkins last year, and Wentz was still better, had better stats.
Wentz had the okay. I know Wentz had no receivers, but the best O line, like that's something. People say he has no weapons, but the amount of
I didn't say he
time
has no
had,
weapons. He has no wide receivers. He has a
and he
great
has 2 top 10 tight ends in the best offensive line. So he had a great season, but Watson had a better season. Anyway, and I think Wentz could end up having a better career, and I think he will. And he's shown flashes of being an MVP quarterback, but Watson has had a better career so far. Number 5, Lamar Jackson. I probably have him lower than some people on this list. I said he was a solid quarterback in the whole Michael Vick argument, and I stand by that. I think he's a top 5 quarterback right now. 4, Drew Brees. 3, Aaron Rodgers. 2, Russell Wilson, one of the most slept-on quarterbacks. I think it'd be ridiculous not to have him in the top 3, and I have him at 2, and then 1 Mahomes. So
Here's where I disagree with your list completely. You have Matt Stafford ahead of the GOAT, ahead of Tom Brady.
He's the GOAT, but he's not
developing
playing.
in his career, and he got injured. Tom Brady didn't even get injured. I can't see how you put Matt Stafford over Tom Brady right now. That is absolutely ridiculous, and you should be ashamed of yourself for that.
Matt Stafford was
So passionate.
Calvin Johnson, and
Wait, are we talking whole? I thought we were talking the best quarterbacks right now. Like,
yeah, right now.
For
I'm
years,
just saying,
Stafford has not had Calvin Johnson.
even right now, how are you going to put Tom Brady?
because he wasn't that good last year.
Matt Stafford was
Matt
an
Stafford
MVP
was injured.
until he got
Okay,
hurt. He was an MVP candidate. Stafford.
He had like how many less touchdowns than Brady do you have?
How?
Hold on.
I mean, Brady is.
Yes,
probably
Brady's
the
not
GOAT.
that good anymore. We understand that, except for DeMar. He's washed up. He can't throw the ball more than 15 yards. But
So
he's
what? You have Matt Ryan over Stafford?
yes, I do, because he's made the playoffs. Multiple.
No,
Just Stafford has never had a defense.
Not
He's
anymore.
had Calvin Johnson. He's had good receivers, and he's put up good numbers with those receivers, but he's never had a defense to back him up, and that's why he doesn't win anything. So if you're going to judge them on winning, I mean, he can lead comeback drives if he's in the position, but
You're just
he can only put up a certain amount of points, and his defense
Stafford,
is
their team's always losing, and he always throws up garbage yards.
okay. I can agree with that. He's got some garbage stats, but like, can you blame him? Look at him he competes in games too, but he can only compete to a certain point.
It's just not right to put him ahead of Tom Brady.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, how can you say Brady can barely throw the ball 15 yards downfield when
Right
Carson
now-
Wentz had a 0.1 higher yards per attempt? 0.1. And yes, Carson Wentz had way more weapons this year than
Why
Brady
are
did.
you including
and they
Wentz?
both had no
Wentz
weapons.
goes for tight ends and his running backs.
Wentz is better than Brady right now. That is for sure. But you can't
Oh,
say
hot
Brady
take.
is washed up and horrible when he still had 4,000 yards. He had 24 touchdowns with a hobbled Julian Edelman. That was it. He had no tight ends. His running backs were not healthy. His offensive line was completely broken down.
Julian Edelman is not hobbled. I don't know what that means.
Julian Edelman came out of the season and had 2 separate surgeries on his knee and his shoulder, I believe.
And he looked fine out there.
He didn't look fine. In the last game of the season, he dropped the pass because it hit him in the chest and his ribs burned so bad he said that he couldn't even hold on to the ball.
Solved.
So he was hurt. According to Boston doctors, he was hurt the entire season and played through it because he was the only thing they had.
I mean,
Beginning of the
I don't know if
season,
you
they
guys
looked like
watched-
they were going to have the best wide receiver core in a long time that we've seen. And then Antonio Brown lost his goddamn mind in a week and was gone. Josh Gordon decided to smoke again, and his mental health went right back down. So they released him after he was late to like every practice. And then he went to the Seahawks, and then he retired again for the 4th time.
I think he got suspended or something, right?
No, he left because he was going to
Isn't
get
he
suspended
applying for
again.
reinstatement?
Yeah,
He's
he
applying
got
for reinstatement now that weed is
suspended
legal.
again.
Now that weed's legal, he can apply again.
All right. Here's the thing. I don't know if you guys watched the golf match on Sunday, but I mean, you would have thought Tom Brady had a bruised rib out there with the way he was hitting, but he looks like a 41-year-old man or 42.
I mean, he's 42 years old, and at 41, basically, is what he was last season.
No,
He was
he's a
42,
very
actually.
smart
He was
quarterback,
42
and
for the year.
if they run
Still-
his system, they're going to be good.
He had more passing yards than Wentz, only by 16, but he still had more, so it's not like it was a difference. He had 3 less touchdowns, and he had 1
Why
more
are you
interception.
comparing him to Wentz?
Because this is the most reasonable explanation between Wentz's 6th ranked and his 9th ranked, saying Wentz is unbelievable and amazing, and then Brady is washed up and horrible. He still had more passing yards by a little bit. He had 3 less touchdowns and 1 more interception with a lot less weapons and a terrible offensive line last year. So I'm just confused as to where this argument that Brady is washed up and terrible has come
'Cause
from.
You gotta watch him play. It's not all about stats.
That's-
I
Like,
did. I watched every game.
No, you
Yeah.
didn't. No, you don't.
He had the most dropped passes in the NFL by
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
think if you're gonna say watch him play, he's not airing it out anymore. But he's a very smart guy. That's why I still have him in the top 10 because he can. If
Well,
they
that's
run
that's what has always been his biggest
his
thing. He's
calls
smarter
at
than
the
every
line
other quarterback.
Everything. He makes smart decisions. So that's why we're gonna have to. I feel like no one truly knows how it's gonna be in Tampa. Is it gonna be like a Jerry Rice, like like situation where you go to another team and you kind of just fade away? Like that's kind of what happens with these older guys, and I think that's probably what's gonna happen. But he can put up a fight for a year.
No, I think they're going to be good. I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, his experience definitely gives them the ability to win it. And like he's not a bottom feeder quarterback or anything by any means anymore, or at any point now. But I mean, I don't know if I have them as the Super Bowl favorites like some people have them now.
people actually have them as the Super Bowl favorites.
No,
Yeah.
that's just hype to get views. I mean,
That's
if you're talking
media
about
hype.
first take, yeah, that's just media hype.
Well, more than likely, yeah. But I mean, just the fact that they're saying it is part of it, at least.
Yeah,
I mean, me and Menta had the debate before as to
What
who's
else
going to
are
win
they
the
gonna
NFC
talk
South.
about, though?
But
Saints. It's not
Yeah.
close.
I mean, yeah, it's the Saints. Come on.
I just wouldn't be surprised if, I mean,
I'd
the
be
whole
pretty
argument
surprised.
before was defense was the issue. The Saints have a better defense, but I mean, the defense is kind of evened out through the draft. The
Mhm.
Saints didn't pick like anybody. They had 4 draft picks and 2 of them were on offense.
They got Malcolm
3 of them
Jenkins.
were on offense,
That really helped them, man.
but he's a 32-year-old safety.
So
It's
He's a
not
great
like
leader.
he's coming in at 24 years old, fresh and spry, coming in to change
not
that.
very high on
defense.
the Bucks defense, besides Shaq Barrett. I think they
Kevin
have
White,
Kevin White.
And
Their
can
front
you
seven is
really
Antoine
trust,
Winfield Jr.
can you trust Shaq Barrett to have that year? I mean, look at Shaq
He
Barrett's
doesn't
career
need to.
before this year, and then look at
He
him
doesn't
this
need to
year.
have that career. He just needs to have a decent career, and he's got a stud 22-year-old linebacker right beside him now. And he just got one of the best
interested to see
safeties in
how
the
it turns
draft.
out. You can argue all you want about it. You just don't know how Tom Brady's going to be this year because it's like at
I'm
some
not
point
making
he's
any
gotta fall
predictions.
off.
I'm just saying I'm not going to be surprised if the Bucks squeak out a slight win in the NFC South. That's all I'm
That'd be
saying.
There's no way they win the division.
I would
The
be
Saints
very
are probably
surprised.
the favorite the Saints are probably the favorite in the NFC. Like, come on.
They should be the favorite in the NFC. Yeah.
Picking up Emmanuel Sanders too, like that, like and Malcolm Jenkins, like 2 veterans. Sanders. Like I feel like at this age he's still got some speed, and that's just yet another weapon for Drew Brees. Like, come on.
Actually, this brings up a good argument. All of our friend Frank Tiano, me and him were talking about quarterbacks before, and he said to me, "Why is it that Drew Brees is not being argued as the best of all time? Is that a reasonable argument? I don't think
No,
so,
because
but
I don't
want to
know.
put
won
that out
one
there.
Super Bowl.
I'm not answering that question
Meta, why are you so angry?
because he's not the greatest of all time. He doesn't have as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady. He's not as successful as Tom Brady. It's pretty
I
simple.
think he means why is he not in that same tier as Joe Montana, Manning, those guys?
Well, his
I would say
career
With the
hasn't
records he
retired for
has.
long enough yet. He's still
I would say
playing.
Marina before Breeze.
That's my feeling. I would say it's Brady, Montana, Manning, Marino, and then somewhere like Elway or somebody like that at 5.
I just think it's because he's still playing. Like you got to give it like 10 years and then look back
He's
on that
top 5
discussion.
ever.
Oh,
You don't think Drew Brees is top 5 of all time?
No, I think he's probably 6. I think Elway's 5 and Breeze is probably 6.
Hmm.
Because
I don't
look,
know.
Breeze
I
has
think
had
it's close.
losing
It's
seasons.
close.
Breeze has had losing seasons. Like
Yeah,
the
but
quarterback's
that
job
defense
is to win games.
Defense
that
was
defense is bad too.
atrocious
If you want to talk
for
about a bad defense,
after they won the Super Bowl. That little stretch for years, that defense was awful. Like Eli Manning, if you saw the video was around today, Eli Manning threw 6 touchdowns against the defense in that one game. Like that defense was so bad.
I mean,
Every
but in the
year.
last 3 years, I feel like Breeze has had so many opportunities to just close it. He's had good defenses. He's had extremely high-level offenses. I mean, the offensive line has been great. Receivers, I mean, other than Michael Thomas, it's been average guys. But when you have arguably the best receiver in the NFL, it doesn't really matter who you have behind him, as long as they can just catch the ball like just randomly. And he has one of the best running backs in the NFL to play to his style. So
well, they chose.
I feel like he should have had a shot, like a
They
much
chose
easier
against
shot
the
to win it all.
Vikings. And then the
They
PI
choked.
game, they had a chance to score after that. Say what you will about the pass interference, but they had a chance to score after that, and they choked. So.
Exactly. That's where I don't like the PI argument because, like, it's not like that ended the game and the clock said 0 and that was it.
That was very.
They had
Well, it
chances.
kind of shoulda.
It shifted momentum, but, like, that happens all the time.
Who says they would have scored after that, though? Like, Saints are acting like if that play never happened.
Mike, where would they have been on the yard line? But like the.
Probably around the 5, I think.
Not in the end zone.
I mean, he's right about that. Anything can happen.
Pretty sure you throw
ask
the ball
Russell
in
Wilson.
Thomas's direction, he'll catch it for you. So.
I'm pretty sure Marshawn Lynch could have rushed for 1 yard in the Super Bowl, but they threw it.
But that
and they
didn't
threw it
happen
intercepted.
exactly. Like,
So, like,
I mean,
you just don't know.
momentum shifts and just crazy things have happened in the end of games before. So, like, one bad call doesn't necessarily
saying, I
end the
think
game,
they
but it can be huge.
They choked last year.
They
That's
definitely choked last
they
year.
got unlucky the last 2 years, Mike. Don't tell me that they choked. They got unlucky.
The
I mean,
years
that's
before,
just- sure.
last
No, the year
you-
before they got sort of unlucky. Last year they choked more than
Last year
anything.
they
I feel
choked.
like
2 years before that they got unlucky.
Yeah. No,
they
I
got a
agree.
little bit unlucky and they half choked because their defenders still
Everyone's
undercut
gonna act
that
like
route so
calls don't go
horribly.
both ways, though. I mean, that was a bad call, but there's bad calls missed for both teams.
I mean, you have examples of games where, like, the calls, like, one huge call goes against the one team and the loss happens because of it, or seemingly because of it, because momentum shifts that badly. But I don't know if that game was necessarily that, or if it was just that the Saints just didn't pull it out at the end.
Well, I think the Saints didn't pull it out. I'm not going to be a Saints apologist. I mean, at a certain point, if you're unlucky for so much, then maybe you're just not as good as you think you are. Like, maybe you choke, Like,
That's a fair point. Like, if it happens 5 or 6 times, it's probably more you than it is. Like, it's not like the refs were being paid off for entertainment purposes to make the Saints lose just so they had something to talk about. Like, there's plenty of stuff to talk about when it's playoffs.
but this is their year. I think if there's any year, I think they're the strongest team in the NFC this year. So we
The
can see
Niners,
them in
the
Super
Niners
Bowl.
just Niners.
The
won
Niners.
Super Bowl.
Sort of
Yeah.
reloaded. They got another receiver now who's younger.
Now it's
Didn't they lost some of their defense though, right? Which was
They
the
got
whole
rid
big
of-
thing.
Well, they got rid of Buckner and they got Kinlaw, who was one of the highest rated defenders in the draft and is a stud. They just replaced the guy with a younger guy who they can pay
I
at the
just can't
same
see
skill level.
Garoppolo doing that again.
Yeah, you didn't go run heavy again though. It got him very far.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name? Jarek McKinnon's healthy again, and they just restructured his deal, so he's
Jarek
back.
McKinnon is
Let
Yeah,
Monster
fair.
run free. That one.
They got Mostert, Tevin Coleman, and McKinnon.
they can run
which
it,
is
which is
a
why
pretty
I'm
solid
perplexed.
three-headed monster.
I'm perplexed why they drafted Ayuk too. Like
Because they
why
got rid
Well,
of
you need a
Sanders.
him
You need a receiver.
I
They
think
got rid
that
of
they
Sanders,
have,
so they have
what's his
Samuel and
name?
Ayuk now.
Yeah, Samuel.
But they need a second guy. Like, Debo's not Michael Thomas where you can get away with not having a second guy. He's not like Devontae Adams where you can get away with it.
Yeah, Devontae Adams is a one-man show.
And he really is.
Not
Everybody
by-
knows Marquez isn't doing anything.
Or the Lizard King.
True.
Zard.
King Lizard and Jake Kumaro.
Are we talking fantasy now?
I think that's probably a perfect segue into it.
I mean, if you're talking
if-
about Devontae
if-
Adams, I could talk fantasy.
if anyone's going to show up. So I guess just fantasy sleeper segment now then? Yeah, is everybody in?
What should the order
Um,
be? Are we gonna do it in like an order?
We'll go guests first.
you guys go
Um,
first. You guys go first.
You
Am I
guys
saying
go.
all mine? Like at once?
Just go like one each, and we'll
Yeah.
just we'll talk about each.
All right. So the first one I'm gonna say it's not a deep sleeper, it's a high sleeper. Brandon Cooks. I think he's gonna be back next
Ooh.
year. I think new offense, I still think he's really good. He's fast as hell. I think he's back next year. I
He's
think
awesome,
Watson's
man.
gonna throw him some bombs. If he stays healthy, I mean it's the same thing with like Will Fuller. They're healthy, they're gonna catch bombs. But
Yeah.
I think I'm taking Cooks next year.
And Cooks is a much more polished receiver than Fuller too. I think he's not just bombs. I think he can go over the middle and do all different types of things.
Mhm.
And I think if he gets another concussion, he could be out of the league. But that's definitely a good sleeper pick there.
I mean, as long as they don't play the Saints and Malcolm Jenkins doesn't take him out, I feel like Cooks will be fine. And Fuller's going to get hurt at some point this season, anyways.
Love that play.
I mean, I can't see a season where Will Fuller is healthy for 16 games. I just don't think it's possible for him. So, I mean, Cooks has a wide open end. One of my sleepers was actually in the same organization. It's Isaiah Coulter, definitely a deeper sleeper. He's a rookie.
Is this for
Really
Dynasty?
talented. I mean, this is just in general. I think he has a road to playing time for sure. I mean, the two guys ahead of him are basically an injury-prone machine in Will Fuller and Randall Cobb, who's in his 30s. And if Cobb gets hurt and Fuller gets hurt, which you can probably bet on the possibility of that happening, Coulter's thrown right into the starting lineup, and he's talented enough where he could get points.
I mean, there's three
You got to
receivers
have
ahead
more
of
than
him.
one receiver. I mean, even with Hopkins there, at that point, whenever Fuller was healthy, at least Fuller was still getting points with Hopkins there. So I think Coulter could still definitely benefit from that. And it's not like Cooks is a health machine. He's been hurt a lot of times too. So it's not an unlikely bet that those three all get hurt.
That's a guy I would definitely have in like a dynasty format. I don't know about like a redraft league, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Probably not touch him. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Mike Gesicki, right? This is the only guy I have on this
One of
list,
mine.
unless you guys take him on my dynasty team, and it's also some Penn State bias too. But he was a stud athlete out of college, right? And like you look at his like spark score, all those like analytic things, and I mean like look at what he's had at quarterback, just on like instability, no weapons down there, and they finally get Tua, and they've got Fitzpatrick still, but at least it's looking like they're adding more weapons and kind of keep like some linemen and just looking like they're going to be more competitive in games. And then you look at the tight ends, and like what better year for tight ends to break out than the third year. So if you're in a dynasty, I would definitely look for trading for him because I think he could go for cheap unless the hype builds up, and then you could probably snag him like later rounds in a redraft. And the athleticism is there, and you look at his stats at the end of last season, it's just like, can you keep that going?
I completely agree. He was one of mine for sure.
Yeah.
Menta, do you have any sleepers you want to talk about? Joey? Can Menta's in fantasy land?
Yeah. I think I don't know if I consider him a sleeper.
Who meant that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can hear you.
you.
We're waiting for you to say a name.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I don't know if I consider him a sleeper, but someone who I think could fit well. I think Devin Singletary is going to be really good in the Buffalo Bills offense. He had like 5 yards per carry, I think, last year. I just think he can have a better season with like Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, working with just that whole offense together. I think he's going to be someone you should consider to draft early if you're looking for a running back after like the main guys go. So I think he's going to be really good.
That's definitely a sleeper. I think that is.
I think that's a good pick, yeah.
I have one he might not necessarily be a sleeper by a lot of people's standards, but he's somebody people are definitely down on in a little bit. And it's Mike Williams. I mean, me and Mike are in a fantasy league where he went like 129th or something like that. He had the touchdown production 2 years ago. He had the yard production last year.
I know.
He's in a new offense, and it'll depend on quarterback play because I don't think Tyrod Taylor's that kind of fit where Mike Williams works well with him.
If Tyrod
He's
starts,
better-
he's screwed. Like, Mike
Yeah.
Williams is going to get screwed.
I think Tyrod will end up starting the season, but I don't see him making it past 3 or 4 games. I feel like Justin Herbert's just too talented, too
He
much
might
of an
be-
arm to fit with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I feel like they just have to play him at this point or at some point early in the season.
That's definitely a high risk, high reward player. It's really perplexing that he had 10 touchdowns his rookie year, and then he had a 1,000-yard season. And now without Rivers, it's it's his third year, and he's proven that he could be a receiver in the league. It's like, how's he gonna produce?
Or it's his third healthy year, I think. He was out his first year with that neck injury that he had in college. He was out for most of it. But through his 2 really healthy seasons, I mean, he had one of the top in the league in touchdowns, one of the top 15, 20 in receiving yards. If he can just half put that together and put up like an 850-yard, 7 to 8 touchdown season, he's a wide receiver 2, 3, and I don't see any problem with him having over 1,000 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns either. So, I mean, if you're PPR, he's going to have 60 receptions in my eyes at 1,000 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns. So I would
That would be a great,
like to have him.
that'd be a great situation for him.
Yeah, I mean obviously that's a boost for everybody. I mean, I think the same goes for Stephon Diggs. I think Diggs has taken a huge bump because now he's a legitimate number one, and he doesn't have to deal with Thielen.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, but Diggs isn't really a sleeper or anything.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
I'd say another one of my sleepers from the same team. For like later in redraft leagues, Justin Jackson, the running back. Because I know Eckler's good. And Demar, you love Eckler, and Eckler's
big
really
time.
good. And I think next year, if Justin Jackson's healthy, at worst, he's like a really good handcuff. So I think if you're going late, I think he could end up splitting carries on like Eckler's a huge receiving back, but I think on actual carries, Justin Jackson could end up splitting them. So at worst, he's a good handcuff. So I would say Justin Jackson is a good sleeper.
Do you have him in our league?
I haven't Dynasty yet.
In our dynasty, yeah. So we're all in a dynasty league together.
I
That's
think yeah, he's got potential because he's young too. I mean, in Dynasty too, you can. I think
he's
if you're
pretty young too. I think I like Solomon. I was surprised because what is he like 24, but I don't know how I feel about Eckler. I think Jackson's definitely a good sleeper.
I mean, I like Eno Benjamin too for like a deep sleeper because I feel like if they want to go a slightly cheaper option, it's a 7th-round pick for the Chargers, who's now the 3rd string. Or not Eno Benjamin, Joshua Kelly.
Yeah,
He's a bigger, stronger version of Justin Jackson, basically. And I feel like he's a better complement to Eckler than Jackson is because Jackson's a better runner than Eckler probably is. But Joshua Kelly, I mean, a lot of people had him relatively high on their board, not super high. He wasn't up in that top 5 group. But his running style is good. It's strong. It's basically straight as an arrow. It's not so much like AJ Dillon, but I could see him kind of overtaking that spot for Justin Jackson. I guarantee it's going to happen? No, but if they just want to go a little bit younger and just kind of have Kelly there as insurance, I could see that happening for sure.
All right, I'm gonna go with Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh. Mento, you might like that pick because he's on your team in our league. He led all rookies in receptions last year. And, you tell me who their quarterback was last year, and now you got Big Ben coming back. So I definitely think that, with more stability at the position and just like one thing for a rookie to come in and like catch all those balls, like, maybe the yards and the touchdowns weren't there. I mean, he definitely flashed some good moments, but to be able to be relied on as a receiver like that, and hopefully he can come out, establish himself as the wide receiver 2 there behind Juju. And if Big Ben is like throwing like himself of old, I think definitely there's some potential to get him in a later round, and he emerges as a wide receiver 2 this year. That could be a possibility.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. I like that.
I agree. So I think to finish off, best thing we could do on the fantasy football route, I guess just everybody give their favorite pick for like a not so obvious fantasy stud for this coming season. So somebody who hasn't traditionally been that top 4 or 5 guy every year in out. So not like a Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey or any of those guys, but somebody who you could definitely see becoming a wide receiver 1, a running back 1, a QB1, something like that, or a tight end 1 even. So do we want to start with you, Dan?
I'm saying Dalvin Cooks could be the best running back in the fantasy world this year, is all I'm saying. I think he's a stud. Don't you shake your head at me, Menta.
No, Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey are going to be better than him for fantasy.
You say it as if it's a fact.
I mean,
I'm not saying. I don't know.
he's a fantasy machine.
The best bet is McCaffrey and Barkley, but like
Saying
Cook,
Dalvin could slip in.
it's
He
not
was so
like-
good that year.
the Vikings didn't throw much last year at all, and Cook, had one amazing year, and he could just build on it. And I mean, I'd be a little surprised to see him as the number one running back, but it wouldn't like freak me out like seeing like Eckler as the legitimate number one leading by like 20 points or something. But I mean, I like the pick. I'm gonna be honest with you. Mike, you seem excited for it.
I'll go.
Have to
All
switch
right.
location, but my comment on that is that I could definitely see Alexander Madison vulturing a lot of carries because he had a great rookie year last year, and I think Cook, when healthy, is obviously the new guy there, but I could definitely see Madison being used more next season.
I mean, that's a fair argument. Not gonna lie, Madison was pretty damn good last year, in a backup role. So I could see him vulturing it. But I mean, they're gonna go with the hot hand, like most teams would. So if Cook's on a roll, they might as well just keep giving him the rock.
Yep. I'll give mine. I'm not gonna give. I think someone who can be very good. Are we talking fantasy? Fantasy, right?
We're talking fantasy.
Yeah,
I think Kyler Murray is going to be very good for fantasy. I mean, he was pretty good last year. I think he was top 10 last year, if not number 10. And with the addition of Hopkins, and he's got Christian Kirk, he's got Kenyon Drake. I can just see him being a big threat in fantasy. And he's also probably my dark horse for MVP in the NFL. If I had to pick a dark horse, I don't think he's going to win MVP, but he's my dark horse, and definitely someone you could. I mean, people are really high on quarterbacks. Go for him really early. He's one you could wait for. I feel like he'll fall a little bit.
Yeah, he could. I mean, he's got the weapon too. Hopkins, best receiver in the league, in my opinion.
Wrong, but all right.
just a simple wrong.
Who do you have?
Michael Thomas.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the sample size for Thomas. I mean, not that it's not big, but Hopkins has been doing it for more years.
It's been doing it for longer. Julio Jones, number one.
Okay, but Hopkins has had no one at quarterback until now. And with Kyler, with the gunslinger, come on.
Can we agree those are the consensus top three, though?
You have
more than likely.
Watson.
Yes, Dan.
Yeah, I think we can agree those are the consensus top three receivers, though.
Yes, Dan.
Wait, for
Okay.
fantasy teamer?
No, in the NFL. Those are
Okay,
the top
'cause I
three
was
Yeah,
gonna-
receivers.
those are the top three. Yeah.
No,
think
because
there's
I don't
any
think Julio
arguments.
Jones is going to be in that top three range at all. But
Yeah, I agree.
For fantasy
Yeah.
or for the league?
for fantasy, I think Jones is
Oh, well, because he
probably-
doesn't get enough touchdowns because their offense is stupid.
He gets a lot of yards.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm saying that him getting a lot of yards makes him still, I think, maybe the number best wide receiver. But that offense, like, they don't throw him the ball in the red zone, which is stupid. So he doesn't get enough touchdowns. I think Calvin Ridley
I
gets
feel
a
like
touchdown.
Thomas is definitely the best like fantasy receiver, but I feel like last year, I mean, he cemented himself as at least a top three receiver. I'm putting him at number one just because he did break the record for receptions. But I mean, I have no problem saying Hopkins or Julio Jones are much more talented. And I'm an Ohio State fan, but like
I wouldn't say much.
I have zero problem saying Hopkins or Julio Jones are more talented. Thomas is more of just a reception and kind of lay down. He's not exactly more of a run with the ball and make a lot of moves to get extra yards.
I don't really think Hopkins is either. I think Hopkins just goes up and gets it too.
But I feel like Hopkins plays more deep than Michael Thomas does.
Well, 100%,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hopkins gets downfield a little bit more than
I mean, you can
Michael
rely on
Thomas can.
Thomas getting 15 receptions a game. Like you can't rely on that, but you can see that, and you wouldn't be surprised as opposed to anyone else in the league because he's involved on every drive. You just always see him.
No, yeah, you're right about that.
So that's why I think he's number two. But
Yeah.
I mean more production like that, and he could put himself at number one in my book.
I kind of have two guys who I'm thinking about. One at receiver and one at quarterback. I mean, Josh Allen, I could see for sure being the number one quarterback this year. I mean, he just
Number
got
one
Stephon Diggs.
quarterback?
He was number 6 last year. He was number 6 last year in fantasy.
He's not going to be the number one. I could
He
see
was the
maybe
number 6 last year. He was the
He's not
number
gonna
6
be
last year.
number
He just got
one.
another running back in Zach Moss, who's very talented. He just got one of the better receivers in the league in Stephon Diggs. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump into that 2-3 maybe range. I mean, he was 6 last year, and that was under the radar, number 6. I wouldn't be surprised if he took a couple step up. I mean, does that really surprise a lot of people? I mean, Mahomes, I feel like he's going to be number 1.
2-3, like he's going to be above Lamar Jackson. Like
I could see it. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I think it's more likely than people are giving it credit for. He was number 6 when nobody was talking about that.
Yep. With Diggs, you can definitely see it as a possibility, but just
I mean, that's a big jump. His best receiver last year was John Brown, who played really well, but he's not Stephon Diggs.
Mahomes, right, and Jackson. Like, he's not – who's going to outscore Mahomes unless he gets hurt?
I'm saying Mahomes is probably number 1. But I could see him breaking over Jackson. I feel like defenses are going to figure out Jackson a little bit more than they're going to figure out Josh Allen.
You can figure out – I agree.
You think they can figure out Lamar Jackson easier than Josh Allen?
Well, no.
I feel like Josh Allen, he has the running ability, obviously, but his
he can't
arm,
really
I mean,
throw.
is kind of untapped.
He's a terribly inaccurate passer.
But his accuracy went up after his rookie year, which means he's
because it was like 50%, and
it
it
was
went
like
up to
50%, and it went up to like 60, which is a big.
It wasn't even 60.
Jump.
It wasn't even 60.
It was like 59 or 50. Wait, actually, it might have been a little bit better.
No,
check that.
I'm looking at it right now. It was 58.8%, which is still
58.8%.
So I'm glad it went up from 52% his rookie year. I'm glad his accuracy is improving.
All I'm saying that shows improvement. And of the guys in his draft class, he had the best arm, in my opinion, by far. He's got the strongest arm.
Oh, he
can chuck
he's got a ridiculous cannon for an arm. He can launch the ball all the way down the field.
Dan.
But if his accuracy improves, that's what I'm saying is the key. If his accuracy improves, he's on a probably 12-4, 11-5 football team with a legit number 1 receiver now.
For his team. He blew that opportunity against the Texans in the playoffs.
Yeah, they choked that game.
He was really
and he lost to
stupid
one
in
of the
that
best quarterbacks in the league in that game. And it was dumb. He didn't play well, but it was his second year in the league as a 2-year starter.
You're going to put him at number 1 in fantasy?
No, I didn't say that. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he was in that 2-3 conversation for sure.
Yeah, we're making hot takes, all right?
The receiver I was thinking was Darius Slayton, though.
I agree with that.
He was my sleeper. He was my sleeper.
He's not I wouldn't say he's going to be a fantasy stud.
I could see it. Their receivers there are Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate.
Evan Ingram and Saquon are also getting carries. There's too many mouths to feed on that offense.
But Ingram's also rarely healthy. Golden Tate's older now. Sterling Shepard, it seems like, gets poked and he's out for 8 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if Darius Slayton and Daniel Jones seemed to be getting a pretty good rapport last year. And if that can carry over, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a high-end wide receiver 2. I don't know if he jumps into the wide receiver 1 conversation in year 2, but I mean, he's the number 1 receiver on that team in my eyes now.
You can't expect that from a second-year player. I would be happy with him as like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, kind of fringe.
I can 100% see him as a high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2, but I wouldn't be crazy surprised if he made a jump given he grew kind of with the quarterback as the legit number 1 option in a crappy offense. I mean, targets are going to come his way. So I wouldn't be surprised if he can turn that into some legit fantasy production.
I wouldn't mind that at all as an owner of him, but I just think there's so many mouths to feed on that team. I think that offense is probably going to be a little better if healthy. I mean, that's a big if with Evan Ingram and Shepard. But Slayton's a nice piece that they got, in the 4th or 5th round. So,
yeah.
I'll give you my pick. So this is going to be a little bit biased because he's on my team too. I could see Kenny Galladay emerging into the top 3 of receivers. You got a guy who only had 65 receptions last year, and he had 1,200 yards, and he led the league in touchdowns with 11. And half the year, I mean, you got MVP caliber Stafford throwing to him at the beginning half, and then Jeff Driscoll throwing in the second half of the season with Marvin Jones and Danny Amendola vulturing.
MVP caliber Matthew Stafford.
He played like an MVP the first half of the year.
He did. He was amazing.
He played 4 games and they got
8 games. 8 games.
He played 8.
When? Last season?
Yeah.
I just added that.
When? We're talking about last season.
Just okay.
Great.
All right, that's beside my point, right? So Galladay. So you got Amendola, who's 34 at this point. I can't see him taking the amount of catches he did as last year. And Marvin Jones has got to be over 32.
Marvin Jones is gonna keep stealing those catches. You know it.
I would be pissed because like I would see a big guy in the end zone, and it would be Marvin Jones. Like that one game that Marvin Jones had like 3 touchdowns and Galladay had nothing, yet he still managed to get 11. You just get a guy like Galladay. I saw something in the last 2 years. He's 4th in the league of receptions 30 yards down the field or something like that. He's got 1,000 yards in that category just down the field. So he's a guy that you just send deep and you can just lob it up to him because he goes up and gets everything. He's got tremendous span of what he can catch, and he's pretty reliable with his hands. And in the end zone, he's just a great target. And he reminds me, honestly, like a little bit of like a Calvin Johnson Jr., like he's a Megatron, but obviously, he finished as like a top 10 receiver last year, but I can see him emerging into like the elite category this year with good quarterback play.
Calvin Johnson was already a junior, by the way, just to make that clear. So he's third.
Calvin Johnson the third, then.
I just have to mention somebody who is one of my favorite players of all time, who you guys know I absolutely love and adore. Mr. Cooper Kupp, number 4 wide receiver last year, absolute
Not a
stud,
sleeper.
one of my favorite players in the league.
He's not a sleeper, I don't think.
I'm not saying he's a
Stop
sleeper.
talking.
I'm saying
Not a sleeper.
he
We
could
talked about
possibly
sleeper.
finish as the wide receiver 1, as the number 1 wide receiver. He was the 4th
Just
receiver in the league last year in PPR. The 4th. He had 94 receptions. He had 94 receptions.
He could just as easily fall off the map.
That offense lost Brandon Cooks. There's nobody hawking those receptions.
And
Do you think I'm scared of Van Jefferson when his name is Cooper Kupp?
Robert Woods. I mean,
Tyler Higbee emerged at the end of last season. Robert Woods still exists.
About them taking up a massive amount of targets. He had 134 targets. He caught 94 of them for 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. I'm just saying, I wouldn't be crazy surprised if he made that jump from 4 to 1 next year. I don't think he'll have it in him for multiple
I would
years.
be crazy surprised if he was the number 1 receiver.
As a valued owner of him and one of my favorite people on the planet, I would 100% be happy with him being number 1 because that would mean I'm doing very well. I love him. My team's name is legit.
Make out with him already. Marry him.
Bring him here.
I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes outside the top 10. Like
I wouldn't either.
I'm just saying, look,
Fluky, his quarterback stinks.
He came in as an older player. He came in at 23. But, I mean, he played 15 games his rookie year and had 20 – he was the 25th best PPR receiver. He played 8 games the next year, and in those 8 games, he had 566 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he's obviously catching a lot of touchdown passes. In a full 16-game season, he finished number 4. What's to say he doesn't have another 16-game season where he just grows again in his 4th year in the NFL and gets better?
Here's the thing. They had Cooks, right, who's on the way out. So they've got Higbee and as their tight end, who really emerged towards the end of last season in Everett. So you've got 2 targets at tight end already. You've got Robert Woods and you've got him. So then why did they draft Van Jefferson? What's the need to bring
Because you have to have a 3rd receiver on the roster who can catch passes if those 2 are blanketed.
Everyone's going to be covering Kupp next year on defense. Maybe it's worse.
I mean, if you're playing somebody like a team like the Ravens or the Patriots, you have 2 great corners who are guarding people. So they're going to blanket your top 2 receivers. You got to have somebody who's reliable at 3rd, and Van Jefferson can be a reliable option. But they're still going to throw to the open receiver, and Cooper Kupp has proven he can get open nonstop.
You don't spend a 2nd rounder on a receiver unless you need a receiver. They don't need a receiver. There's bigger holes on the Los Angeles Rams than receiver. So why are they drafting it? Clearly they're not.
Because they fixed a lot of their holes. They got Cam Akers when they needed to, so that their running back is fixed.
I wouldn't say running back was one of their holes either.
After they lost Gurley?
Sleeper alert. Henderson, Darrell Henderson.
No.
I think at the most.
Just you wait.
I think at the most he'll get running back committee points, but I think Cam Akers is going to emerge as the number 1. So I like Cam Akers as their 1 for sure.
The Rams are a committee when they abuse Gurley, and then you're going to say you think Sony Michel's going to be good this year for one of the biggest committee teams ever, like the Bill Belichick offense.
It's not really a committee for rushing because James White doesn't run that much. I could see Damian Harris hawking a lot of touches, but I mean, I'm just saying they're going to have to run a little bit more this year with Stidham getting used to the offense. So,
Yeah, they're
It's a
gonna
funny
Michel's
way
gonna
of
be a
saying
slight sleeper to move it up.
Stidham playing like crap.
Yeah, when he gets used to the offense for 5 years and
I like Stidham. I'm not afraid to say it. I really like
Why?
Stidham.
Why do you like Stidham? Like, I don't even know
Because
how he's good.
I
Like,
said this to
This
Mike
doesn't even
before when we
talk.
were talking.
Because he
I could name a
can't
random
had-
backup quarterback.
sit on his part.
There were analysts that said based on his arm talent alone, he was a first-round prospect. Just saying.
He was a what prospect?
He was a late first-round prospect when he was going into the draft just for his arm talent alone.
With
Got
that
the
far in the NFL. They don't fall that far.
He has the mental ability of smart quarterbacks like the Tom Brady's and the Drew Breeses.
Say that because
So
he
I'm
was
gonna say-
under Tom Brady? Because that's fine. He's had Tom
I
Brady.
mean, learning under Tom Brady has pretty much paid off for everybody who's done it. Garoppolo was just in the Super Bowl. Brissett was just a starter on a team where he should not have been a starter. That's for damn sure.
That's because they had no other option.
Brian Hoyer
There's-
has been a starter in multiple places. He was
Oh,
decent when he
okay.
started.
Yeah.
Brian Hoyer is
Congrats,
one
you
of the
beat out
least
Brian
talented
Hoyer.
people. Brian
What a-
Hoyer is one of the least talented people as a quarterback in general. But learning under Brady, he has said multiple times, has made him a better quarterback by a lot.
So we're supposed to be impressed that Brissett beat out Brian Hoyer to
No,
start.
he's saying Brian Hoyer.
No, I'm
is a
not
good
impressed that
quarterback
Brissett
under
beat out
Brady.
Brian Hoyer. I'm saying that like Brissett should have never started a game in the NFL more than likely, and because he learned under Brady, I would say that made him a hell of a lot better.
False. Well, no, okay, not false. Brady's obviously going to learn, but I don't think Stidham. I mean, we'll have to see what happens with him.
Let's look at the last few quarterbacks that Belichick has drafted, like drafted, the guys who he has wanted, not like the guys who he filled in at the end of the draft that were just there for a spot.
Stidham at the end.
Because Stidham was a 4th-round draft pick.
I
There's
think they should
capital
have
in
signed
that.
Dalton. I think Dalton's very slept
Dalton's already
on.
on the Cowboys.
I'd rather have Stidham than
No,
Dalton.
I'm saying previously, like
Oh, you're saying they should have? They said they
Yeah.
should. They should sign. They
I mean,
should have
like,
signed Dalton or Ken, but nobody
I
signed.
feel like
Ken.
Dalton's been slightly underrated in his career.
not underrated. I just think people just like shit on him like he's not a good quarterback and like he's just an average quarterback. But like in the Belichick system, like he's
He's the red rifle. Give him more credit than that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just not an anti-Stidham type of guy. If
Yeah,
he
we-
learned under Brady and he's coached by Bill Belichick, I would have no problem with giving him a shot. He's learning from the greatest quarterback to ever play the game and the greatest coach to ever coach in a game.
He's not
So-
currently learning from the greatest. He learned for a year, but
No, he did. But like a whole year with him, that's more than most people are experiencing, and you can soak up a hell of a lot in a year. I mean, look, Brady did it in a year. He learned under Bledsoe, who was regarded as one of the better quarterbacks in the league at the time.
Okay.
Just saying.
all right, guys, look out! Jared Stidham, best quarterback of all time, coming.
Jared
Stidham,
or Josh
Stidham for
Allen.
MVP.
Either one could be number one. We just don't know yet.
Stidham for Pro
It's
Bowl.
a two-man race for MVP next
2021.
year between Josh Allen and Jared Stidham. That's the take of today.
We'll
Yep.
see. But no, I'm not saying Stidham's going to be amazing, but I think he'll be decent at the least.
He's not going to be amazing. You don't want to. You don't want to
quarterback
say
in
that.
your division. It's not even close.
He's the-
Oh,
yeah. Wait. Yeah.
Did you say worst?
I mean, yeah, because he's the most
Stidham?
unproven, probably.
Think that's
I mean,
Stidham?
actually, no, he's not, because him and Tua both haven't played more than a. more than
Fitzpatrick is
in the
better than
NFL.
Stidham.
Tua's
Oh
better.
yeah, you're right. Fitzpatrick's more proven. Never
Also,
mind.
two is easy. Like, what do you mean you're putting them just because they weren't neither
I mean,
of them played?
if Tua stays on the field, then yeah, but Tua's body is broken down to the point where he can barely stand up.
I don't think that's true.
He's had 9 major injuries or something in the last 3 years. I think there was a report. He has a replaced hip.
I think he can stand up. I think I've seen him stand up recently.
I mean, yeah, we've seen him
Jared
stand up. It
Stidham
was
sits
an
on the
over
bench.
exaggeration, obviously,
Yeah,
but
Jared Stidham did a real good job. And when he came in the game and threw a pick six, that was real cool of him. And they had to pull him again when his one chance in
Everybody-
garbage time.
everybody makes bad throws. Relax.
Oh yeah,
It's one throw in his rookie year in his first game of action.
I'm getting
You're
shades
telling
of
me
Nathan Peterman,
if you're
but,
stepping onto the field,
yeah. Nathan Peterman, he's gonna come out and throw picks all year.
if he does that, then throw in Brian Hoyer and call it and just tank for Trevor. But I mean, who knows? Maybe Stidham comes out here and proves that he's good, and
You know what
What
I'm
about your
thinking?
games? Who knows?
I'm still thinking about this Kansas State thing. Like
I don't know where I
Just
was.
bewildering.
I remember looking
Bewildering.
up, like, it was like I was looking up cup bench start scenarios, and one of the pictures was like Stafford, Garoppolo, and Cousins, and Stafford was in a Kansas State jersey. So I was just like, oh, I guess he went to Kansas State because I don't exactly do a ton of homework on Stafford in college.
He was a #1 overall pick.
Yeah, I knew that, but I was like, who cares if it's Kansas State? There's been Big 12 quarterbacks that have
I
gone
think
number
he
one.
was thinking for Darren Sproles, honestly.
I mean,
The Kansas
another
State
stud,
legend.
I'm
obviously.
looking at like the best quarterbacks who have come from Kansas State football, and
There's like nobody.
I don't think. Look at the last person is Tyler Lockett's from Kansas State. There you go.
That I know.
Jordy Nelson's from Kansas State. You said Darren Sproles.
Oh, wide receiver,
Second
you? Question mark.
quarterbacks. Josh Freeman, first round pick. You mistake Matt Stafford for Josh Freeman.
I guess
It's an
so.
easy mistake to make.
Classic mistake.
My bad. All right. I think this is a place to kind of wrap up the show. It's been a long one. It's been fun. A lot of yelling, a lot of arguing, a lot of hot takes. But thank you guys for coming on. It was a fun episode.
Thanks for
We
having
needed
me.
these fiery gingers to really get it, get passionate.
Oh yeah, we need the pair of gingers to make it crazy.
This episode was brought to you by Matera Mulching Co. for all your mulching needs.
Oh, there we go.
There's your There's your
shameless
first
plug.
sponsor.
I mean,
I'm
we'll
sorry
take the
for
sponsor if he
switching
wants to
rooms.
pay us, we'll take it.
We'll
I
pay
don't
you
think
$1 for
Peg
all of your
Hornet
podcasts.
undisclosed amount. Oh, well, Dan just disclosed it. Thanks a lot.
Sorry,
Thanks,
Nick.
Dan.
I disclosed the contract
Yeah,
negotiations.
I
competitors
mean,
know.
I'm just going to say, if any sponsors are listening, from the lowest of companies to the biggest, we will take your money and we will talk all about you.
We'll take
I
your money.
don't care what
This
you
episode
sell.
was brought to you by HBO Max.
Thank you, HBO. Please sponsor us. We'll take your money very happily. I already subscribe, so I want my money back. So pay us. Thank you. That's my plug for HBO Max. All right. So thank you guys for listening.
Coffee. Shout out Big
What's that?
Cat. What?
You're gonna shout out Barstool Sports on here?
No, I want to just get sponsored by Death Wish Coffee. He's like, Death Wish.
Buy us. You guys bought Call Your Daddy, so buy us. And we'll be your new
Oh yeah,
sports
they're
podcast.
they're definitely gonna buy this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Dave.
definitely buy us. That would be amazing. Big Dave, buy us, please. Thank you. We'll take whatever money you want and do whatever you need. Pizza reviews, I don't care. Just give us money. I just want
Give
money at this
Dmart
point.
money. Give
Pay
Dmart
us.
your money.
Just give me your money. That's all I want. And I will plug anything you want. Just don't send money to my Venmo, and I will plug whatever you want.
That's enough out of you.
As long as it's not
This
illegal.
episode was brought to you by Browsers.
All right.
All right, that took it downhill. All right, well, there's definitely a perfect place to end that. All right, thank you guys for coming on. Hopefully, we'll have you on again sometime. I know we're planning a group session with all of our friend group on the same call. Don't know how it'll work, but we're gonna
That's
try and figure it out. It's gonna be a lot of
Bad
yelling,
idea.
a lot of screaming, but
awful idea.
we're
Awful
gonna figure
idea.
something out. So thank you guys, though. And
Yeah,
thanks for listening. Like and subscribe on our YouTube, DM Sports Talk Network. Follow us on Instagram, DM_Sports Talk. Yeah, leave us a like, subscribe, comment about what you want to hear next. Thanks, guys.